social issues,
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
That special secret that awakens taste buds. Mouth-watering wonder with awesome aroma. Terra seasoning cubes.
Terra Seasoning Cube turns your meals into a masterpiece.
Unwrap joy, unleash taste. Hey, come cook with Terra cubes. Come cook with Terra.
Are you finding it difficult listening to your favorite talk radio Nigeria Info via the mobile app? Come closer. Let me fix that for you. Now, launch the app on your device. Click the 3 lines on the top left corner of the app. Look for settings in the drop-down menu and click on it. Turn on the first option that you see. Make sure you turn on the option that says always use highest quality available audio. Now that you have done that, close the app and relaunch it. Voila! I did it! Oh, sorry, you did it. Now you can enjoy your radio anywhere, anytime. Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
I am malaria, the king of malaria parasites. My mission is simple: to take over your body, to cause fever, chills, headache. But one thing stands in my way. Come on, come on.
Effective relief from malaria. Comal on, malaria gone. If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult doctor.
Go for gold, Terra Gold Cube, the amazing seasoning cube. So when you're cooking your delicious meals, don't compromise. Go for gold.
Rich, consistent taste for cooking mouth-watering soups, stews, and jollof. Choose wisely. Choose Gold. Terra Gold Seasoning Cube.
1 cube. Endless possibilities. Terra Gold.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
Your number one station for talk. Let's talk. Let's talk.
The time has come that Africa must learn and realize that the world is not bothered about Africa. The world is only bothered about Africa when they want to take the resources of Africa. Then they bother. They want oil, they bother. And I'm using the word bother in a very deliberate fashion, not in the traditional orthodox fashion. They bother when they want to take our timber. They bother when they want to take our bauxite, when they want to take our coke, when they want to take our uranium. But they don't bother about us. They come to our continent without disrespecting the elephant, and they want to preserve the elephant so that they can come and watch the elephant, but they don't care if 100 Africans die. They want to preserve our monkeys. They want to preserve our leopards and our other animals, but they don't care about us. To them, Africa is a zoo of sorts.
There's no such thing as race. None.
Really?
There's just a human race. Scientifically, anthropologically, racism is a construct, a social construct, and it has benefits. It has money can be made off of it. And people who don't like themselves can feel better because of it. It can describe certain kinds of behavior that are wrong or misleading. So it has a social function, racism. But race can only be defined as a human being.
The biggest stories around the world.
3,298 inmates on death row in Nigeria prisons.
All in one platform.
Plans are underway to evacuate Nigerians in Sudan.
Let's talk sport.
Let's talk information, news, and current affairs.
It recommends that INEC should not be a defendant when we have election petitions.
Together, we'll have a great conversation and more.
On 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info, where the news hits first and every conversation matters.
I believe in Lagos, you already know that every heavy rain feels like another flood warning.
And of most importantly, the court has ordered the arrest of former INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud.
Labour Party leader calling on INEC to scrutinize candidates' certificate.
No Iyaloja General in Edo. Every market has its own Iyeki.
After all that has happened in Gaza, is Gaza still a physical place or a symbol?
The Tinubu administration and his minister, shame to them.
You see this our bow and go syndrome? It'll be the death of us.
News, sports, and talk that keeps you in the know. Stay with us. It's 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. It's 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. And now the business news.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Here's the business news. The Nigerian Exchange Group's all-share index soared past the remarkable 148,000 points on Thursday, with a gain of 612.8 points from its opening. Trading volume jumped to 432 million shares, up from 388 million the day before. Thursday also saw the market capitalization bump to 94.1 trillion naira. Lagos is asking everyone to join the government in ensuring food security. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu wants all hands on deck to ensure the state produces enough to feed its people. The governor stated this at the 2025 World Food Day celebration in Ikeja, represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Abimbola Salu Udaye. Governor Sanwo-Olu said agriculture remains key to economic growth and innovation. The chairman of Amuwo-Odofin local government has promised to complete the ongoing rehabilitation of 23 roads in Festac town within 4 weeks. Larry Sanusi was speaking at a groundbreaking ceremony where he said the road was critical to commercial movement. He also raised concerns about illegal structures like kiosks under high-tension lines and on drainage parts. He said the council is considering standardized branded kiosks for traders, but only for verified Festac or Amuwo-Odofin residents. That's all for the news. I am Buluwatife. Jegede Borderlines is up next with Ireti Bakare-Yusuf.
Don't be left out of the conversation.
It's great conversation all day on 99.3.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
From Washington to Beijing, Moscow to Abuja, London to Kigali, the world is shifting fast. Elections are shaping destinies. Wars are redrawing borders. Economies are rising and falling. And global alliances are being tested like never before. But what does it all mean for you?
With a new administration and a new president in the White House trying to put an end to the war.
I didn't know the historical context, what the state of Israel means for them.
Join the fearless Ireti Bakare-Yusuf on Borderlines every Friday at 4 p.m. on Nigeria Info 99.3. As she dissects the biggest global events and their impact on world peace.
Those who are not familiar with Israel or the war itself would not know much about the group breaking the silence.
No spin, no propaganda, just deep insights and fearless conversations on the geopolitics shaping our world.
People who will call and start telling you about the Bible prophecy about America and everything. See, America is not in the Bible. There's some people who, yes, they share the ideology of, yes, we and these people, we are equal, but they can't speak up.
Borderlines on Nigeria Info every Friday at 4 p.m. The world is changing. Don't just watch, understand it. Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
And it's good afternoon. Lagos, Nigeria, the diaspora, wherever you're joining us from, the UK, Jerusalem, even in Palestine, and now even in Egypt. Welcome to Borderlines, the only show that takes you beyond borders. My name is Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. So, before I bring on our guest, our wonderful guest, I get excited when we have especially smart females. Anyway, you all know, you all didn't know that I was going to be going, but I did go to Egypt on Sunday. As you all know, President Trump was supposed to be signing, what I can only describe as a razzmatazz. So you had people's lives, the lives of the Palestinians, whom, by the way, we must never forget, have been under a Nakba, an occupation, a legal occupation, violent subjugation, and you just add anything else to that, that's exactly it. But fundamentally, they've been living under an apartheid regime for decades and decades. Now, for the last 2 years, we have watched a genocide. We've watched a live stream genocide unfold in front of us. And as you know, this show was one of the first, especially in Nigeria. In fact, I think some still don't call it a genocide in Nigeria. On Borderlines, we do, because we know what a genocide is. Yours truly knows what a genocide is. I've had to go and study it. And if you still disagree with me, then you've been under a rock. So, the Palestinians have been going through all of this for the last 2 years. And indeed, I'm in Gaza. Of course, we mustn't forget the West Bank. Now, finally, we get to a point of a ceasefire. I think this is either the third, perhaps, or the fourth ceasefire. They're calling it the end of the war. President Trump, Donald Trump, flies to Egypt. And I tell you, he didn't just fly into Egypt. It was an earth-roaring, shaking, almighty arrival into Egypt. Why do I say that? We were there, and Air Force One, one of the most incredible things you'll ever see, is Air Force One. Air Force One in the sky, flanked by 6, perhaps 8 or so Egyptian fighter jets, was a sight to behold. So President Trump lands, and everybody knew he landed. Like I said, Egypt must have shaken quite a bit. And he has, He has a press conference with the leader of Egypt, Sisi. Then there's the sort of kiss, handshake, and photograph session. And then we had the signing ceremony, because that's what we would call it, a signing ceremony. What I can say to you is, as somebody, given that I'm a journalist and I was there, the mood wasn't what you would expect. Let me just say that. But I have a guest, and I'm going to be discussing this with her. I don't know whether she was there, whether she wasn't, but at the very least, she's an expert on this issue. Her name is Professor Sarah L. Tantawi. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Perfect.
Excellent. Prof, you so much.
Thank you. It is such an honor to be here, and I love Nigeria. I just want to say that, one of my favorite countries, and I am so happy when you called me. So thank you very much for being one of the first to call this a genocide, and for the work that you're doing, and for inviting me.
Thank you. Well, given that you say you love Nigeria, then I can only imagine you're as crazy as the rest of us. That's what I can say. But let me start before we get into the big meat of it all. This last week, so from Monday to Wednesday, and for me, it ended on Wednesday. What did you make of all that glitz? And we can only call it, it was sycophantic. It was vacuous. It was, at times, it was pedestrian, but at other times, it seemed celebratory. What was there to celebrate?
Right. Well, I think that the fact that there was so much glitz is the story, right? So this is, as you mentioned, there's been at least 3 ceasefires before this, but without the glitz.
Mm-hmm.
So is the fact that there was so much ceremony around this. There were so many European leaders there. There was so much. The role of Egypt is a little bit different in this one too, and we can come back to that. But the fact that there was so much international attention on this, and Trump personally attended and said, "Okay, that's the end. Okay, let's see if that makes a difference. Let's see what role that plays."
Yeah, and did it make a difference at all? Do you think it made any difference? Did it give it the sort of power punch that it needed, or was it really just a case of here's another stage for President Trump to strut about and be, the peacock of the moment?
Yeah. Yes, it was definitely a chance for Trump to strut about and be the peacock of the moment. We can't deny that at all. Did it make a difference? So, the facts of the case are that Israel has already violated the ceasefire several times, even in the past few days. So in that sense, we have a problem. There is more to what happened on Monday than the ceasefire. There's a 20-point plan. And there are a lot of countries, Gulf countries, other Arab states, European countries, and the United States who have pledged to take particular steps and play a particular role in the reconstruction of Gaza. So in spite of these violations of the ceasefire, I think I can't completely answer the question, because the question is, are these other points are they going to follow through on these other points? We still have to see.
So we have, like you said, the Gulf countries, but of course, you had 4 countries sign to that 20-point plan, which was initially 21. I keep wondering what happened to the one. I haven't found out what that one is. Perhaps the one was the most important one, but somehow it started with 21 points and it's now been turned into 20 points. So you had 4 countries, including Turkey, who signed onto this 20-point plan. But the 2 countries that were involved, indeed, Hamas representing Palestine and Israel, the occupier, neither of them signed on to that. So again, I was there and I was left wondering, what is there to celebrate? In Nigeria, we would call it shaving my head in my absence. Were the heads of the Palestinians being shaved in their absence, and by extension, giving their hair as hair extensions to Israel? Or was there a deal for the Palestinians that we just don't know about, that you saw? What was it beyond the exchanging of hostages?
I think that from what I can tell, the answer is both. I think that there is definitely a sense in which the Palestinians are left out of their own negotiations. And as the Palestinian negotiator, Diana Boutou, says, we are the only occupied people. She's speaking about the Palestinians. We are the only occupied people who have to negotiate the security of our occupier. Actually, Hanan Ashrawi said that. And we're the only people who have to negotiate the end to our own famine. And we have to be the ones responsible for so-called de-radicalization. So it's not Israel that needs to de-radicalize, humanize the Palestinians, bring to justice their soldiers who routinely dehumanize the Palestinians, or soldiers, their leaders who routinely dehumanize. No, it's the Palestinians only who need de-radicalization. The 20-point plan, to be fair, does say something about both communities needing to undergo schooling and other programs to learn to live with the other. So to be fair, it does say that. So I think there is a sense in which definitely this is not a plan that centers the Palestinian experience or even puts the Palestinians on an equal footing to the Israelis. So yes, that's for sure. On the other hand, there's also, it's clear that Hamas was consulted. Trump said in Egypt that when he was complimenting President Sisi of Egypt, he said, he was great to work with because Hamas actually listens to him and actually respects his leadership and respects Egypt. Usually Trump, you know, when he speaks, like we as Americans know this, when he speaks off the cuff, off of the prepared remarks, that's when you get the truer statements. So I took from that President Sisi had a lot to do with that there were negotiations with Hamas. And of course that makes sense because there is aid now coming into Gaza, and you know, there have been some shifts on the ground. So I think the answer is both, that to some extent the Palestinians, of course, especially Hamas, were consulted. Mahmoud Abbas, the role of Mahmoud Abbas is also in question. We've heard that he was also consulted, but then again, Mahmoud Abbas really suffers from, this is the president of the Palestinian Authority. He really suffers from a credibility problem, especially in Gaza, but even also in the West Bank. But rumor has it that he was also consulted. But nowhere near the level that you would expect if the Palestinians were actually recognized as essentially equal to the Israelis.
Yes. And let me use this as a segue into your work. You know, you've written about the moral dimensions of political decision making. What do you think, you know, what does it mean to speak to peace when justice remains absent? Because indeed, Diana Butcher is correct. Again, I've had to keep reminding people that journalism, especially in this particular moment, is about accuracy, whether that accuracy is comfortable or uncomfortable. Diana Butcher is correct in the sense that the oppressed is being asked to negotiate for the safety and the security of their oppressors without any conversation to justice. So what do you think that means when, you know, the constant conversation, the word, the headline is to speak of peace, but not to speak of justice, almost as if Israel hasn't done anything wrong?
Right. Yeah, that's a very deep question. And, you know, the way that I look at it is, you know, of course, many of our allies in this issue have taken the position of this is a complete capitulation. Why even go to this charade? Why even go through this? Because I agree with what you just said, or I think the implication of what you just said, which is that without justice, this really isn't a peace deal. And in fact, it's not a peace deal, right? And it's not, or what it's really not, here's what it's not. It's not an end to the conflict. It's just not an end to the conflict. So, and that's clear, you know? And so I am politically pragmatic enough to say, okay, if all of these world leaders want to come together and spotlight this issue and promise, I mean, I'll say I am happy that there are pledges to rebuild Gaza with the participation of with the Palestinians in their own land. You know, we were terrified for 2 years that they would ethnically cleanse the entire enclave since nobody was stopping Israel from doing anything. So if you look at it politically, this document is showing us that at least that option has now been taken off the table, at least in terms of direct political sanction, right? So I'm of the mind of like, this is not the end of the conflict and this is not real justice, but let's essentially call the bluff. Okay, you know, come to Egypt. Let's do the signs and the peace deal. Let's be cooperative. If you want to take any steps in the positive direction, okay, let's be there for that. But so I think if there's any kind of movement toward moving this conflict forward, we should be there. But we should also know that this conflict is not going to end until there's justice for the Palestinians and until the real plight of the Palestinians has been known to the world and until Israel has to face accountability, which is really the factor that has been missing for the last 70 years. No accountability. Indeed. And this doesn't work unless there's accountability.
Indeed. And so I'm glad you mentioned about how this is not the end of the genocide. Well, It might have stopped the bombing. I think we can look at it as a positive pause. But, however, it's not the end of the occupation. It is not the emancipation that the Palestinians have been fighting for the last 70 odd years. Now, could that be, and you also mentioned impunity, could it be a case that to talk about the end of the occupation would mean the Americans, the Europeans, would have to now start talking about justice, about the impunity umbrella that Israel has been afforded all this time? Could it be that? Or is it perhaps maybe even a little bit more complicated than the way I'm putting it?
No, I think it's actually even more basic, which is that if we're going to talk about the end of the occupation, we would need to get the US and Europe to stop funding the occupation, to stop sanctioning the occupation, to stop covering for the occupation at the United Nations, which the US has done for 50 years. So in the Middle East, it's just now I can't really even explain the level to which the US especially and Europe has no credibility on this issue. I mean, you're talking about wanting to do a peace deal when you're literally funding the occupation. And there's no talk. I mean, we have a bill that's being considered in Congress to, for example, for United States officials to officially rename the West Bank to Judea and Samaria. That's just a small example. Okay, if you call it Judea and Samaria, that is the language of not only the occupation but the extreme right wing in Israel. So you are taking the side of not just keeping the occupation going, but of the greater Israel plan, which is to expand the occupation beyond even what Israel has done up until this point. So there's a lot of contradictory political flows going on right now. And the problem is with President Trump, unfortunately, you just get the sense that he doesn't understand the conflict as an individual. He doesn't understand the conflict. And does Marco Rubio really understand the conflict? This is what I don't understand. Okay, intellectually, do they understand the conflict, even from the point of view of the Palestinians? In the case of President Trump, I don't think he does. Does Marco Rubio understand what's really going on? I'm not sure. I think it's probably a pretty superficial grasp. I think about a quote from Michelle Obama that is very helpful. I think she said it in an interview, or she may have written it in one of her books, but she said, I was first lady for 8 years, and I sat in all of these board meetings. I sat in the Aspen Institute. I sat in the rooms with the biggest leaders in the world. And what you realize, and I'm quoting her now, what you realize is they're not that smart. Okay, and so I keep that in mind because I'm kind of looking at some of these people who are representing this issue and talking about this issue from in the U.S. negotiating side, and I just feel like I don't think you have a grasp of the basic facts, or I think that you take cliff notes, like just notes from essentially Israel, and you consider that to be fact. There's really not much of an attempt to come to any kind of even objective understanding of the conflict. Excuse me, you're probably hearing that in the background.
What is that call for prayer we're hearing?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. Where are you?
I'm in Cairo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we were both in Egypt together. Oh, I was in Sharm el Sheikh. Okay. So it's interesting you say that. They probably... Could it be deliberate? Is it a case as they don't want to know? They don't care to know. There is no need. There is no demand for them to care about the details, because to care about, to even consider the rights of the Palestinians would mean you have to care about the details. And in order to care about the details, it would mean you have to educate yourself on the history. Indeed, even the history before 1948. And indeed somebody like President Trump, who's got, the concentration, I don't know, of a fly, forgive me, could it be that's just a little bit too much,
Sure. I mean, I think you would pull that string, and then I think at the end of the string, you have to do things like humanize Arabs. Look at the way that Islamophobia has been used as a tool for imperialism, American imperialism in the region, and for Israel and Israel expansionism. You would have to look at the domestic politics of the United States and how people who are giving the Palestinian side are being silenced and villainized and fired and treated horribly. You would really have to, I think, for me, I wonder if it's as kind of like elite Western kind of imperial thinking is very threatened by the idea of considering people in the Middle East as equal human beings. Because I personally don't think they do. I mean, I don't.
And it's interesting that you say that, because as you were talking, one of the things that comes into my head, and it also takes us to this, it's been 4 days of this ceasefire, is the sort of the demonization is the only word I can think of the Muslim man stroke Arab man stroke Palestinian man.
Oh yeah.
We've had this thing where, there was a time when the whole world was Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has a right to defend itself, albeit legally, according to international law. Israel didn't have a right to defend itself, but we were told that over and over again, and it became a chorus. However, what then began to happen is and again, correct me if I noticed the change of rhetorics and voices where, so to condemn Israel, they would only talk about women and children. It was women and children. Oh, Palestinian women, look at what you're doing to the children. And then I started to think to myself, well, is it that the men don't matter? Or is there this thing since 9/11 where the Muslim man, the Arab man, indeed the Palestinian, who are all part of West Asia, is it their fault? Is it that we're supposed to be afraid of them because every single Arab is, as one Zionist person that I know called them, barbaric? Or, is it something much more than that?
It's a great point. Actually, a friend of mine who's a Palestinian scholar wrote an article that is called Palestinian Men Are Human Too.
Yeah.
Right on the point that you're making, which is that if there's going to be any sympathy for the Palestinians at all, it is always framed as women and children. And indeed, it is particularly barbaric to be bombing women and children constantly on a daily basis from the sky. Yes, agreed. But the figure, it is so true that the figure of the Arab and the Muslim male has been systematically dehumanized in the United States since 9/11, especially as a disposable body, as a figure that is threatening and that is violent and whose lives really do not matter. So it's been in the media. It is in our movies. It's in to some extent in our education system. It's in a lot of churches. It's in a lot of synagogues. It's, and there's even internalized Islamophobia among Muslims. I mean, that's a whole other story that we could talk about. That's really a phenomena. So that is very, very, very pervasive, and it is a very important tool that allows Western imperial powers to have done what it's done in this region for the last 100 years or more.
I mean, you've had, you have language, words, Arabic words, which again have been turned into negative word. I meet somebody that's called, Osama, and immediately I'm afraid for them because I think to us, how do you go through the airports? How do you get through the airports? My cousin, who was growing up, in the States, so he was working in the States at the time, and his name was Abu Bakr 9/11, and he talked about the hell that he went through just from having that name. It's how do you navigate that? Because you are a professor of religion. How does one navigate that? What is it about the Islamic religion that is often turned into this negative thing that you must be afraid of because Muhammad had a 6-year-old wife and all of this stuff? Are the Muslims themselves partly responsible? Is it the terrorists, Islamic terrorists that are responsible? Or is it that they've chosen to adopt the actions of Islamic terrorism and project it onto every Muslim person?
Oof,
I'm asking big questions, sorry.
Yeah, great questions. It's, again, my own internalized Islamophobia is coming up. And that's something that I've put on the table for myself recently because can I let him finish?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
This is the sundown prayer.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're finished here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this question of Islamic terrorism. We cannot justify people going and killing innocent civilians. We can't. We can't justify it according to Islamic law, actually, at all. We can't justify it ethically. So I don't justify it. I do not approve of it. At the same time, I did not use the word but. I'm saying new thoughts. When you look at just the sheer amount of violence that has been committed by, let's say, American and Israeli power, militaries, this is now numbers. It utterly dwarfs what we are calling so-called Islamic terrorism. I'm saying so-called because really, actually, there's nothing Islamic about it. It's against Islamic law. Okay, Muslim people are doing it in the name of Islam, I suppose, but all of us can say whatever we want to say about anything, and it doesn't make it so. So that's how I look at that. But Western power and its violence toward this region absolutely dwarfs anything that we can call Islamic terrorism. Now, it's not the Olympics, it's not a competition, but the problem is that I am being asked as an American to think of that form of violence that we call Islamic terrorism as the most barbaric and worst form of violence in the entire world. And I'm being asked not to even mention the fact that 1 million Iraqis were killed in the Iraq War, the hundreds of thousands of Afghanis were killed, that probably hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were just killed, that the scale of the Iranians who were just killed in the attacks, the scale of violence against Muslims is enormous, and I'm not even allowed to not only mourn those lives and consider them equal, I'm usually not even allowed to talk about it. Someone will accuse you of whataboutism or of trying to they'll say you're trying to justify terrorism in some way. No, I'm not trying to justify terrorism. I'm not trying to say that it is right to go and kill innocent civilians. Of course not. I just also think it's not right for anyone to kill innocent civilians, including your militaries.
Yeah.
And I refuse to say that those lives that were lost in the Middle East don't matter as much as the lives that are lost as a result of terrorism. That's what I refuse. I will not play into that dehumanization. So I will not, if somebody asks me to condemn terrorism, I'm happy to do that, but I will also have to, as an ethical duty, mention all of the other violence against Arabs and Muslims in the same sentence. I will not simply condemn one side. And that, that can get you in some trouble with people who want to make trouble, but that is the ethically correct thing to do.
Indeed. So let's talk about this moment again before I go back to your work. One of the things that we've seen in the last few days is a new form of violence taking place in Gaza. There is no authority anymore. The 20-point plan said they would put in some sort of governance, but nothing has been put in. We've now seen the clan, which to most people, they don't know who the clans are, the gangs, if you like, the criminal gangs taking over on the street. You've seen a video of Hamas actually assassinating or extrajudicial killing of the Abu Shabab clan and others. One of the things that I'd like you to talk about is when I looked at that and I saw that and I read up on it, one of the things that I saw reminded me of was the way a lot of the anti-Nazi resistance in World War II responded to Nazi sympathizers and those who supported the Nazis. Is that what we're seeing right now in Gaza?
That is an interesting question. I think that's probably Hamas's perspective, that those gangs were working with Israel. We do know that, Netanyahu admitted that he's funding those groups.
Yeah.
So that's on record. But, I would hesitate maybe to make that analogy simply because I'm not sure of all of the details of. Sometimes when you say, this is the thing, when you say I worked with this group, what does that mean? I have to know more details. It could be that I brought bread one day to I don't know. So I'm a little bit, and also I have Palestinian colleagues and friends and comrades who have explained to me in detail like how problematic and scary the targeting of so-called collaborators can be. So I'm a little bit like, I need to know more details about that.
Let's talk about empire and memory. Much of your work engages with colonial legacies and their afterlives. So do you see President Trump's initiative as part of that longer story, the West's and their ongoing attempt to manage the region rather than truly understand the region? For a start, they called it the Middle East. Let's start from there, right? Most people don't know it had nothing to do with that, but go ahead.
Yeah, and thank you. Just to clarify that for people who might be confused about why that's a problem. If the Middle East, if you think about it, the Middle East, okay, from whose perspective is this landmass the middle of the East? The answer is London. Right? That is why that term is considered to be a colonial term, and people prefer West Asia to describe this region a little more accurately. Is this a continuation of colonial legacies? Absolutely. There's no attempt to critique or hide that. This is the thing with democratic administrations, they make more of an attempt to hide these things. We're here for peace. We're here to, they would use different rhetoric to do essentially the same thing. With the Trump administration, there's absolutely no, there's no attempt, I'll say a couple of things about this. On one hand, rhetorically, there's no attempt to hide that they believe themselves to be a superior people that are just trying to manage this unruly region. I will say, though, that this is just a little bit of an off-the-cuff
Please go ahead.
observation, but the Republicans, like someone like Trump, really respects money, right? And really respects business. And I get the feeling that he, as much as Trump is capable of respect, he really does respect the Gulf states, right? Like when he meets the Emir of Qatar and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, those are good people to him. That's his definition of like good people. And he sees them as equals, and he's doing business and he's doing deals, as he puts it. And it's interesting. The Democrats I almost want to say that they'd be happy to do business maybe, but it would be more under the cover and almost like still a little more racist, if you can understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think that for someone like Trump and the Republicans, the money really gets rid of a large amount of the racism. Whereas with the Democrats, you feel like it's deeper in a way, or that they're more fearful or something like that. That's just an observation. That maybe Republican and Democrat is too generalizing here. It could just be the Trump administration versus the Biden administration. We could say that. So I would say that. But this idea, I mean, we have a long way to go if the goal, which it should be, is decolonization. And what does decolonization mean in this region? It means that this region is actually independent, and it is not always having to understand its fate vis-a-vis large imperial powers. So for the most of the last century, that's been the United States, but also it's been the Soviet Union at other times. How do we have an independent region? Now, all of the attempts that have been made to have an independent region have been violently shut down by the West. Pan-Arabism as a movement was violently shut down. So
let me ask that question, though. I'm glad you mentioned Pan-Arabism. Of course,
Pan-Africanism.
Yes, and this is the thing, because that's the collective that brings everybody together to say we are going to stand against, these Western interlopers and oppressors and those who cause issues between us and set us against each other. When you talk about that, and for me, the moment you meant, I'm thinking that was possibly the fear, and you may correct me, about the axis of resistance. I'm thinking to myself, that is possibly the idea, although Iran called it the axis of resistance, what they were meaning was Pan-Arabism, something that the likes of, Edward Said has always pushed for, and it never happens. But now you have, a bit like in Africa, you've got the young leaders, the young Gulf Arab leaders who are not about that Pan-Arabism.
No.
They're just about, we need the West, we've got the money, they like money, give them money, let them protect us against our people. Not because there's a bogeyman that's coming to arrest us. So talk to us about, monarchical rule versus democratic rule. And and, because the moment you mentioned that, it came to my head. Yeah.
Yeah. Another great question. I heard, I'm going to try to be fair about the Gulf states for a moment here, because I've been thinking about this, because I heard a theory recently that the Gulf states, it's true that they have been relying on the United States for their security, and it's like security against who? And like you said, it's their own people. In the case of the Gulf, it's often Iran is like their big fear. But I've heard a theory recently, especially in the last 2 years, the United States has shown that it is actually not a good security guarantor for the Gulf. Like, look what happened in Qatar. Right? Yeah. Israel went in and assassinated these Qatari leaders. So, and of course, that would not have happened without the knowledge of the United States. And we know this, right? So I've heard a theory that the Gulf states, they are rising economically, and they have this vision of how they want to develop their economies and develop and sort of like spread their influence regionally. And the theory here that I've heard, which I don't know how I feel about it yet, but the idea is that, well, the Gulf states didn't help with Palestine militarily. But what they did was they used the economic tools that they had to bring the Trump administration over to their side so that they could facilitate something like this 20-point plan. That is the most generous interpretation I can give you of of maybe some of the strategy from the Gulf. But you're absolutely right that, I mean, and it's been on record, bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, they are not interested in anything other than their own countries. And the sad part is that, Egypt has come out under a lot of criticism for not militarily intervening to help the Palestinians in Gaza. And if you talk to people in Egypt, especially in the military class, they will say, look at our memories. In 1967, when we went in to liberate Palestinian land, and we were attacked by Israel, and then we were attacked by, the Americans went and helped Israel. We found ourselves absolutely alone on the battlefield. Even the other Arab countries that started out with us were gone, and we were alone. And Egypt cannot take on the United States and Israel. It's just not possible. So that is that's just a small example to kind of give us an idea of why some of these states feel like we cannot afford to do anything but look at ourselves.
Yeah.
And then you have countries like Egypt, which is, still, thank God, a stable country. And it looks to like what happened in Syria. Like the moment you allow these other proxy groups to come into your country and fight their battles inside your territory, that is basically, it's a matter of time before your country fissures and splits. This is like the mentality. And so I can imagine if I'm being as fair as I can be to the Gulf states, that they might be thinking something like that as well, that they want to make sure that they stay focused.
Indeed.
But it's still, though, you can't imagine a good future for this region outside of some kind of cooperation, economic, political, whatever you want to call it. This region must be thought of as a whole and have some kind of a regional identity.
Yeah, indeed. You can call 0201. We only have 10 minutes left, and I can make use of those 10 minutes, but I do have an obligation to answer your calls. 0201-277-0993, or the female line is 0201-465-7190. You can send a message to WhatsApp number 0809-597-5805, and they've already started calling. I'm coming to your calls now. Why am I not seeing? Okay, there you are. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, merchant man. Very quickly, go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, I really want her to. Good afternoon to your guest.
Her name is Sarah. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, Sarah. I want you to elucidate more on the reason Trump's administration is not really ready to the Gulf state is not really ready to back the
Palestinians.
Palestinian people.
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
Militarily.
Thank
you.
you.
I want her to this morning. Yes.
Thank you. Right, Sarah, hold on to that question. Please write it down if you can.
Sure.
They've already started calling. Short, very quickly, people. Hello.
Yeah, good evening, Cecily.
Good evening, Emmanuel. Very quickly, please.
Yeah, two questions, quickly.
One.
Number one, what is the Israeli lobby? I mean, what will it look like going forward? Because in countries from America, to Britain, France, if you are not aligned with Israel,
right.
Israeli government,
Thank you.
As not going to make it politically.
Thank you.
Number two.
Oh, Emmanuel, quickly. Okay. We don't have time.
Israeli empowered, financially empowered Hamas, to serve as a rival to other Palestinian governments. Now, the Israeli is now empowering other gangs against Hamas. Should the Israeli citizens be worried because they are the receiving end of a powerful Hamas?
Okay,
because
thank
tomorrow
you.
the gangs, can be another Hamas. Should
thank
the
you.
Israeli citizens be worried and begin to speak up against what the Israeli government is doing?
Thank you very much. Sarah, I knew it. The moment I open up the lines is going. I can give you a minute to answer those two because I have to pick up other calls.
Okay. Well, you're very informed callers. So
they are.
They are, yes. So the first question was about why doesn't Trump support the Palestinians? Great question. I think the answer is it's really the domestic politics of the United States. It's the amount of, there's a carrot and stick element. So there is a lot of aid and money that is given to politicians that support Israel, according to their definition of supporting Israel. There's a lot of positive incentive to support Israel. And then there's the stick, there's a lot of punishment if you do not support Israel.
Okay.
You could lose your congressional seat. You'll be called a bigot. You'll have a lot of problems if you are seen. This is starting to change, but generally, if you are not seen to support Israel, plus there's that what they call Judeo-Christian civilization, and this whole idea that somehow, especially the Christian majority, has to support Israel as part of their religion, which is a whole other radio show. And then the question was, shouldn't the Israeli public be worried about empowering groups outside of Hamas? Yes, it should.
That's a straightforward answer. Thank you. Right. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Yes, very quickly.
Oh, my name is Sam.
Go ahead, Sam, very quickly. 30 seconds.
Okay, we are complaining of Israel as being genocidal. 1,000 people killed by Hamas. Is it not genocide as well?
Okay, thank you.
Is it possible to say Israel alone is committing genocide without
saying that Hamas did the same on October 7th? Good question. Thank you. I'll let Sarah answer that. Stay listening. Thank you. Right, let me pick up one more. Hello. Oops. Hello.
Hi, Titi. How are you?
I'm very well, Titi. But you only get one question. It's short.
Yeah. The post-war Gaza security arrangement dictates that.
I need you to speak up. We can't hear you.
I mean, the post-war Gaza peace talk demands that Turkey, Egypt, and UAE will provide internal security arrangements for the Gazian people right now.
Yeah.
With the problem between Hamas and the other rival gangs.
And the gangs, yeah.
Do you think it will be easy? Because before that can happen, the UN security will have to sanction that at the security meeting. How easy would that be at the security, given the issue of rivalry between the dissenting parties?
Okay.
For instance, America versus China, Russia, and the go.
Right.
Thank you.
I think he's talking about the UNSC that's due to take place. I can't answer any more calls, people. Sorry. I know you should have been calling earlier. And I'm selfish like that. Right. I'm going to give you a minute to answer that. They're already giving me strange looks in the studio.
Hear the second question.
Right. No, Titi Lokwe, he was talking about we do tend to always have a problem with his voice. He was talking about the issues going on between Hamas and the gangs. And the fact that the security is supposed to be a joint security force that's going to be on the ground, which is going to be presented at the UNSC, I believe, next week. How easy do you think that's going to be? I'm going to give you a minute.
Okay, I'll start with the second question. If Israel allows it, I mean, really, Israel is in control of that. They're the ones who tend to obstruct these processes, and they're the ones in control of the border. So if Israel is serious about this and allows these peacekeeping forces in, then we'll see. In terms of the first question about the 1,000 people that were killed by Hamas, I will just go back to what I said in the beginning, which is that it is absolutely condemnable to target and attack civilians. And I condemn it, and I don't think that's the right thing to do. And at the same time, I will also say that those lives are to be mourned, and they are not worth more than the lives of the Palestinians who were killed before that time and after that time. So the way that, and the reason I keep emphasizing that is because we are being kind of encouraged, especially in the West, to think of that event of October 7th as a one-time event, one of the worst things that's happened in history. And when the reality is that it's actually part of a cycle of violence in which thousands and thousands of Palestinians have been killed, displaced, and depossessed over the past 70 years. So I condemn the entire cycle of violence.
Thank you. Right. Lagos, Nigeria, wherever you're listening to me from, My guest was Professor Sarah L. Tantawi. She's the scholar of religion, politics, and moral reasoning in the modern Middle East. She's also the author of Sharia on Trial, Northern Nigeria's Islamic Revolution, a landmark work that probes how law, faith, and resistance are reimagined in the shadow of colonial legacies and global power. And yes, before you write and say again, why didn't you ask her anything about Nigeria? She's going to be back to talk about Sharia on Trial. Right, Sarah?
Absolutely. I would love to.
Thank you so very, very much for being our guest today.
You.
Benga's probably writing you already, so we can book that, because there's this whole thing going on about genocide, Christian genocide in Nigeria. So we'd like to get, as an expert on Northern Nigeria, we would certainly be getting you back ASAP.
That sounds great. Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful show.
Thank you. Enjoy Cairo.
Thank you.
Stories are waiting to be lived. Family reunions in Calabar, big deals in Lagos, new adventures in Owerri, and one airline makes them all possible. Welcome aboard Cali Air, operated by ValueJet. Comfortable seats, friendly crew, on-time flights to Kano, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Abuja, and more. Make memories, close deals, see loved ones. Let Cali Air take you there. Book now at www.flyvaluejet.com. Cali Air, proudly cross river.
It's the Indomie Eat and Win promo. The more you eat, the more you win. How to win? Buy the Indomie Eat and Win promo pack. Find the promo code inside. Visit indomie.ng/eat and win. Enter your promo code and start earning points fast. For a chance to win exciting gifts and 1 million naira cash every week for a lucky winner. So hurry now, eat and win. Let the winning begin. Visit indomie.ng/eat and win for more details. Terms and conditions apply.
This taste na banger, this taste na creamy rich, this taste na new Nescafe, original 3-in-1. Thickness, enjoyment, yumminess, happiness, delightfulness, deliciousness, smoothness. This taste na new Nescafe, original 3-in-1.
Enjoy more creamy richness with the new Nescafe Original 3-in-1 in the new pack. That's strong. Finish strong.
Mom, are you going shopping?
Yes, darling.
Can you get me a Capri Sun beach ball, please, Mommy?
For sure. Wait, where do I get a Capri Sun beach ball?
There's a free beach ball inside every carton of Capri Sun, Mom.
That's right. The Capri Sun Beach Ball promo is here. There's a free beach ball inside every carton of Capri Sun. Terms and conditions apply.
Capri Sun, the taste of fun.
Guess what? Nigeria, the Kellogg Superstar Quiz Show is back with season 4. Get ready to watch young superstars from schools across Nigeria battle it out in the ultimate contest of knowledge, speed, and fun. Catch all the excitement from 12th October on Z-World, DSTV channel 166, and GoTV channel 30 every Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. sharp. It's going to be a thrilling journey of learning, laughter, and superstar moments, and you don't want to miss it.
Superstar Quiz Show! In the cooking game, you need a winning game plan. I'm not just talking about your fresh ingredients, utensils, or cooking skills. I'm talking about your choice of seasoning. My game plan is incomplete without Maggi chicken flavor. Made with a flavorful formation of onions, celery, turmeric, it's my game changer. Elevate the taste of your everyday dishes with delicious rich chicken flavor. Oh yeah, let's go!
New Maggi chicken flavor, my game changer.
There's so many things I love about PamPay. You can enjoy unlimited free transfers.
Really? Is there more?
You can buy discounted data and airtime.
Wow. Can I get more?
You can get cash back on bill payments.
More money back?
You can even enjoy up to 20% interest on savings.
This is more.
It's just one app with endless possibilities. It's PamPay. Say yes to more.
Little body, big moves. Little brain, big learning. Your little child is eager to do big things. Every sachet of Cerelac Junior comes with the nutrition they need, natural grains, protein, and iron to support their physical growth, learning, and development. So you can fully enjoy your little one's big moments of growth.
It's the choices you make that set you apart from being good to being great. My choice? Nivea Men Deep Body Lotion with Max Tech, powered by Black Carbon. Gives you both dark wood fragrance and 48-hour moisture. And my other top choice for all-day freshness, Nivea Men Deep Roll-On for 72-hour protection and fragrance with Max Tech, powered by Black Carbon. Skin is for playing it smart. Nivea is for skin.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
You're tuned in to 99.3 Nigeria Info, where the news hits first and every conversation matters.
I believe in Lagos, you already know that every heavy rain feels like another flood warning.
And of most importantly, the court has ordered the arrest of former INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud. Labour Party leader calling on INEC to scrutinize candidates' certificate.
No, Iyaloja General in Edo. Every market has its own Iyeki.
After all that has happened in Gaza, is Gaza still a physical place or a symbol?
The Trump administration and his minister, shame to them.
You see this our bow and go syndrome? It'll be the death of us.
News, sports, and talk that keeps you in the know. Stay with us. It's 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
It's 5 o'clock. The headline news on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Here are some of the headlines we're tracking at this time. World Bank says over 60% of Nigerians are living in poverty as experts blame lack of financial education. Lagos police investigate viral post by passenger who accused her in-drive driver of staging a robbery. U.S. Embassy warns Americans to stay away from areas of planned #Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest in Abuja. And ASU tells federal government to increase funding for public universities to end recurring strikes. Senate steps in to mediate between ASU and the federal government over lingering education crisis. And Governor Seyi Makinde says the only defection that matters is when hunger leaves Nigeria. Governor Hope Uzodinma says Tinubu's reforms have made Nigeria rich again. And Sanwo-Olu launches Omi-Eko project to modernize water transport in Lagos. Talks collapse on global deal to cut shipping emissions. And finally, Zelensky heads to White House as Trump mauls long-range missiles for Ukraine. And that's all for the news. I am Boluwatife. Jagade Borderlines with Ireti Bakare-Yusuf continues.
Above and beyond borders. It's Borderline
With Ireti Bakare-Yusuf.
Welcome back to Borderlines, the only show that takes you beyond borders. Well, right now it would appear that we're going on the far and open seas, but I'm in the studio, as you all know. And my guest would probably know more than that. I love the water, as I don't know if I've told you guys, I do love the water, but for some reason I have a fear of swimming. If I didn't have a fear of swimming, I may have been with him on the Global Smooth Flotilla. You remember the humongous flotilla, the largest, that was going to Gaza just a few weeks back to go and break the siege of Gaza. That's Israeli siege on Gaza. Of course, Israel arrest 500. They're peace activists. They only had baby food, formula, just stuff, regular stuff, water, those pills that you put into water so you make it drinkable, etc. However, Israel arrested all of them. Well, my guest is David Adler. He's the co-general coordinator of the Progressive International, an organization uniting movements, activists, and thinkers from around the world in the struggle for global justice. David, welcome to Borderlines, welcome to Nigeria, welcome to Lagos, albeit digitally.
It's a shame I couldn't be there in person. You have to invite me around to Lagos so we can meet up again, but it's a pleasure to be with you virtually.
Thank you. You're welcome. I can see it looks like you're going to like Nigeria. It's a crazy place. Lagos, on the other hand, is even more crazier. But so, like I said to my audience just now in my intro, Israel arrests 500 international peace activists. I've never heard of such a thing, and I don't think anybody could have imagined it possible for 500 peace activists to be arrested on international waters. But they were.
Yeah.
Tell the audience, tell us about what happened.
So first, I think it's important to emphasize the composition of this global Sumud flotilla. These are not professional activists or agent provocateurs. As you say, these are grandmothers and grandfathers. These are doctors and lawyers and journalists and judges. These are ordinary people who are brought together by a single moral conviction that something must be done about the suffering of the people of Palestine, and that if it's the states of the world refuse to live up to their good faith obligations under international law, well, it's going to be ordinary citizens who take humanitarian matters into our own hands, who find our own humble fishing vessels and stuff our boats, as you said, with medicine and lentils and rice and baby formula and sail our way to Gaza. So it's very important to emphasize this because one of the main narratives that was leveled against us by the state of Israel as we were sailing across the Mediterranean was that we were the Hamas flotilla, that we somehow were menacing their national security, that we were organized and financed and coordinated by organized criminal syndicates at the international level, that were secretly pulling the strings behind the flotilla. And nothing could be further from the truth. You know, I was surrounded by, a French actress and a South African activist and a Canadian physician. And all we were doing, was trying to respond to the very urgent humanitarian needs of the people of Gaza who are suffering, as we all know, from what the UN has declared as a famine. So first thing was really important to emphasize this composition. The second is, if I can politely correct the record, we weren't arrested. We were abducted, we were kidnapped, we were stripped of any of our legal rights, and we were disappeared and detained as prisoners of war. We were in international waters, and I think we've gotten to a place with the state of Israel where we're normalizing and apologizing and justifying their illegal actions because they are so myriad and so aggressive and so rogue. But it's very important to think about, what if any other state around the world in international waters were to take such violent actions to abduct, to kidnap, to disappear with no communication to our governments, let alone to our families and to our friends. As you say, these peace activists, these humanitarian workers who are protected under international humanitarian law, especially in international waters.
You were taken to, is it Kitzotz? I can't pronounce it properly. That's the best. Kitzotz prison, where many have reported that it's violence, the humiliation, the mistreatment. How were you treated? What's your experience? Would you mind sharing that with us?
Not at all. So we were taken to one of the most notorious Israeli detention centers. I don't want to call it a prison because it wasn't a prison because we didn't have any rights when we were there. It's like Guantanamo Bay from the United States,
Wow.
99 acres or 400,000 square meters of detention camp where famously Palestinian political prisoners, many of them children, have been held there in the past and up to the present. And so this was announced a long period ahead of our arrival to the so-called red zone. But it was announced that we were not going to be treated, as humanitarian workers. We were going to be treated as terrorists. And so we were. We were taken to the port of Ashdod illegally. They took control of our boats. They robbed us. Literally, they stole our boats and all of our belongings when we got there. They stole our jewelry. They stole our medicine. They stole our clothes, our passports, our wallets, our cash, our credit cards. They just took them from us like pirates. And then they, stripped us and zip-tied us and blindfolded us and sent us into the middle of the desert to this detention camp. And over the course of many days, they systematically, beat and abused people. They shackled us at arms and feet and sent us into solitary confinement. They interrogated us under horrific conditions, and of course denied us access to legal representation, to consular support, and of course to any kind of communication with the outside world, including with our families who were desperate for information about what we were going through. And I think what's critical, now that we're out and we're able to communicate about this experience, is that it was just that. For us, for the 500 of us who were in Kitzur detention camp, for us it was an experience. But for the Palestinians, brothers and sisters who are in that same camp on another side of that 400,000 square meter camp, this is not an experience. This is reality. This is daily life under conditions of occupation. And, thousands of Palestinians remain in these kinds of conditions of detention. 2,000 people got out in the hostage exchange deal that was executed last week. And the stories we're hearing of sexual assault, of beatings and abuse, of blindings, of cripplings, of people losing limbs. These are the stories that I think we need to be focusing on, because our point was very simple. If this can happen to humanitarian workers from around the world, if this can happen to a Spaniard or a Nigerian, if it can happen to a kid from California or a Brazilian land activist, imagine what's happening under the cover of darkness to our Palestinian brothers and sisters who are in an archipelago of these kinds of concentration camps across the occupied territories today.
And I think not that I haven't read it. I've read it. I've read what's happened. People like Thiago are friends of mine, and and it still comes as a shock as to what you were all put through, and really why. It's not even so much the what, it's the why. Why is it necessary? Okay, you can remove people from their boats, albeit illegally on international waters, and say, right, we are deporting you now. And you can actually put them on the next flight. But the need to actually extend it and apply a day, 2 days, 3 days, in some cases 5 days of torture.
Yeah, in my case. Yeah.
To that, in your case, right? 5 days of torture to that experience. It speaks to something about the Israeli society, and I'd like you to tell us what you think it speaks to about what sort of society feels the need to do that.
I think it speaks to elements, as you say, of Israeli society, of domestic political economy in Israel. I think it speaks equally to the international community and the degree of impunity that has been granted to the state of Israel to behave as it pleases, regardless of its implications for international law on the global stage. So domestically, as you say, I think it reflects the fact that Israel is caught in a centrifugal dynamic, spinning and spinning towards a right-wing radicalization that seems to have no limit. The fact that these humanitarian workers were effectively handed over to the man who's considered to be the most psychopathic, the most genocidal, the most criminal of the cabinet members, that is the Minister of Security, Ben-Gvir, to send his goons to, not just, as you say, humiliate and terrorize, but to abuse and torture these people from around the world, throwing grandmothers on the ground and breaking a leg, depriving people of life-saving medication like insulin, allowing infections to get so bad without the absence of medical support that people were fainting and falling over and nearly dying in this camp. This reflects the fact that, Israeli society has allowed and has facilitated it, and that they're caught in that dynamic of right-wing radicalization. And when they tell the world, oh no, these people, they may be in the cabinet, but they're marginal figures. I mean, maybe they're marginal in some grand scale, but they certainly weren't marginal for those people, those of us like myself and thousands of Palestinians who are basically handed life and livelihood over to these crazy people to do exactly what they will without any regard for our fundamental human rights, let alone any legal framework, even Israeli legal frameworks, because all this is happening in an extrajudicial gray area where we don't actually have any rights. So in some ways it says critical, important, and revealing things about domestic political economy in Israel. But I think much more important for the conversation we're having now, much more important for Nigerians as for US Americans or French people or Australians, is the fact that Israel's doing this as a test to the global community. How far can we go? How many ways can we flip the finger to you and your precious international law? On the same day that our flotilla suffered a drone strike in the Tunisian port of Sidi Bou Said, an attack on the sovereign country of Tunisia, as well as an attack on our humanitarian workers. Let's not forget that the violence did not start in Ketia. It started on the high seas, where we suffered waves of drone attacks at the hands of the State of Israel, ordered directly by Benjamin Netanyahu. On that same day, Israel was bombing southern Lebanon, bombing Syria, bombing Yemen, and bombing Qatar to kill Hamas negotiators of its own peace process. 5 Arab countries it was bombing at the same time. These are all tests, I think, of our countries, of our communities, of our governments and states to say, how far are you going to let Israel go? How much damage are you willing to accept that they're inflicting on this so-called international order? I think that is so important to emphasize because it explains why so many of us are so committed to solidarity with Palestine. It's not only because we are concerned about the rights of the Palestinian people and the humanitarian crisis that is we're witnessing on our screens every day. It's also because we know that their suffering is a premonition of suffering across the global south and around the world. And if we allow Israel to get away with this in Gaza, then we're allowing the United States to get away with it in Venezuela. We're allowing any great power to basically decide that their might makes their right and they're going to do whatever they can get away with.
Indeed. It's interesting what you say. Of course, the Israeli society. Now, do you think we are now at a point where we've got to start talking about Zionism the same way, with the same condemnation as we talk about Nazism?
Yeah, I think that there are parallels that are very striking between forms of fascism across the world. One of the things that happened when we got to Ashdod was everyone had their jewelry confiscated from them. And,
that is so bizarre. Why?
It's very revealing. I'm a Jewish person, right? So for me, I'm a child of Holocaust victims and survivors. And so for me, there's a special place in hell that I think is reserved for people of Jewish faith and heritage who pervert the historical memory of our own suffering to inflict that suffering onto other people, and to do what was done to us by the Nazis. I mean, carving their symbols onto our skin or onto our territory, blowing up our communities, painting, Palestinians as rats or as vermin or as insects that need to be crushed or destroyed, or giving biblical and religious justifications as the Aryans once did for our destruction, over now to the people of Amalek, to the Palestinians who must be destroyed and evicted from the earth. I think these are incredibly dangerous parallels. And I think it's extra important then, and there's a special responsibility of, anti-Zionist Jews like myself to stand up before it's too late, to recover some of our heritage and culture. If you're really concerned, this is what I say to my friends and community members in the Jewish community, if you're concerned about about anti-Semitism, if you're concerned about people's hatred of Jews, the most important thing you can do is fight against the state of Israel that seeks to rob us and pervert our culture, and use our symbols that adorn our synagogues to lead and justify violence against the Palestinian people. And, inside those camps, as a Jew, and this was an experience that other Jewish people had. There were not many of us, but there were enough of us to have this common experience. We were systematically targeted for special abuse, special torture, special treatment, by the state.
Inside the Kitzion prison.
Yeah, you're the wrong kind of Jewish person. You don't belong in this project that we're building, in this great State of Israel project. And the fact that you stood up for the Palestinians means that you're just as good as they are, and we're going to treat you as animals as we would treat Palestinians as animals. And that was the message that we got from the State of Israel. So I think that there is a very important responsibility as we see these emergent comparisons to also think about what it means for my community. I think, though, I come back to the question of the international community and the impunity we've granted Israel. It's okay to be making historical comparisons to, Germany 100 years ago, but we haven't even got to the level of outrage that was marshaled against the South African apartheid regime. I mean, let's start more humble here. We need to get people to act as they once acted to ensure the downfall, the isolation and destruction of the apartheid regime in South Africa. That took years of organizing for boycotts and divestment and for sanctions against the colonialists and white supremacists that managed the Bantustans and apartheid regime in South Africa. Let's aim there, the Nazis had their own campaign that was waged against them from the Soviet Union in the East and from the Allied powers in the West. But we're not even close to taking on this regime in that way. Let's start with the more humble way of trying to dismantle, trying to isolate diplomatically, trying to economically sanction this project, the State of Israel, that or has, I think at a minimum we can say, achieved just as violent a form of supremacist apartheid and occupation as we saw in apartheid South Africa. So I think we should think about it on that political spectrum and try to be as ambitious as we can to get to the next phase of this struggle, which is to deal with Israel as we once dealt with South Africa, and to work collectively as a global community to strip it of the impunity that it's been granted to commit these crimes against the people of Palestine.
As you were speaking again, all I could hear was, here is a descendant of, those who stood up to the Nazis, the Warsaw, resistance groups, and they stood up and they were fearless, and they didn't have much, but they figured out how to do it. And so many of them were young. And so many of them just said, look, you're going to have to fight me to kill me. I'm just not going to make it easy for you. And I hear that from so many young Jewish people. This power to resist, it's almost bequeathed, if you like, onto you. You've written and you've said, I almost never write as a Jew. I share the exhaustion of being forced to put Jewish feelings first. I've had Ori Goldberg on here. I don't know whether you know Ori. Ori incidentally lives. I do. He also lives, in Israel. And I've said to Ori, how are you? Because, he's been on this show quite a few times now. He's become a friend of a member of the family. And I noticed that particular day that he really was so exhausted, not necessarily physically, but emotionally. He was exhausted. He was tired. And the burden of having to actually be the one that's taking apart your own community. Talk to us about that exhaustion that you share with the likes of Ori Goldberg.
I think that all too often in the temptation, especially in the West, to tell both sides of the story. We're being asked to listen to the oppressor and the oppressed. We're being asked to listen to the aggressor and the aggressed. We're being asked to listen to people who live in a state that's committing a genocide and people who are being genocided. And especially in Western countries where we are conflating like someone saying something mean online with, in London, with someone having 4 members of their family slaughtered and their home, ancestral home, destroyed in Gaza City. There's a fragility, I think, to kind of Western Jewry that's then weaponized. Our perceived and aggrieved cultural position is then weaponized to justify crimes that are committed by our community and in our name in the course of this 2-year assault on not just Gaza but all the occupied territories. And I think that there's a big struggle in certainly my own head, but I think in general in the Jewish community of what does it mean to retain that identity when so many of its community members have lost their minds and have decided to ally themselves with a project that is so utterly indefensible, committing crime after crime against humanity and the international community at large. So I think that that exhaustion is one that I think maybe in Nigeria you even have less than in a place like the United States or elsewhere where, a candidate, for example, I'm speaking to you now from New York City, a candidate like Zoran Mamdani, who's running for mayor, is constantly
I know him. Yeah.
What does he think about the Jewish members of New York City? What are their feelings? Has he checked in with them? Has he spoken with their community members? And he's never asked, how does he feel about how Palestinians think, and what are they about their community members? There's lots of Palestinians in New York City. I must tell you, like, I met with a member of the New York State Council Assembly here in New York City, who very generously kind of welcomed me to the city and gave me some certificate, and she was very sweet. And she said, David, in the New York State Assembly in Albany, in the capital of New York State, they have days of appreciation for everything. There's Hug a Sheep Day, there's Sneaker Day, there's Cookie Day, but we tried to have a day of appreciation for the Palestinian people, and it was the one day that was vetoed by the State Assembly. So this is the imbalance that we have. We have a hypertrophic obsession with the representation of Jews, Jewish feelings, and Jewish concerns and anxieties, and we have a systematic erasure of Palestinian feelings and Palestinian communities and Palestinian people and Palestinian humanhood, like humanity. When we have, a synagogue is shut up, and that's a terrible thing. There's so much anti-Semitism in this country, for sure. Now, ironically, it's the anti-Semitism that belongs mostly to like the Republican Party, who claims to be standing up for the state of Israel, but that's a whole other conversation. But when Palestinians, we have many cases in this country, of the United States, where people have been targeted, they've been stabbed, they've been shot, they've been beat up, they've been attacked for being Palestinian, and they do not get the same type of attention or treatment or concern from our political system, from our representatives. I think that's a disgusting asymmetry of humanizing on the one hand and dehumanizing on the other that we have a responsibility to correct.
Indeed. I'd like you to tell us something, and here's a question you probably don't get asked often, and you're possibly the first guest I'm asking this of, a Jewish guest for that matter. The European racism, so pre-World War II, post-World War II, many, they don't speak it, but, those of us in the know that post-World War II, there was a lot of European racism and pogroms, and they did not want against Jewish people I'm talking about, they did not want Jewish people to come to Europe, right? Indeed, they knew for a very long time what Hitler was doing to the Jews. They looked away and allowed it to continue. Does that conversation ever happen amongst, I can see your face, does that conversation ever happen amongst at least young Jewish people? If not the older ones, perhaps it brings up too much, of a memory.
No, I think we talked a lot about this in my family, certainly. I mean, my father's family, who lived and died in the Holocaust, relocated to Australia afterwards, but only because at that point in time in 1946, after the war was over and the Nazis had been defeated, Britain closed its doors, the United States closed its doors, most countries closed their doors to Jewish refugees, so my father's family ended up in Australia. But, I think that we have to hold two things to be true at the same time. There is a lot of anti-Semitism in the world. People don't really like Jews. I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes about us. There's a lot of latent anti-Semitism. We've been the victims of a lot of propaganda against us historically, but all the way to the present day. And even in a civilized continent like Europe, where I've lived for many years, there's a lot of anti-Semitism. I mean, it's burning, it's searing, it's kind of under the surface, but it's still there for sure in countries like Italy and France. However, at the same time, the racism, if you can call it that, the anti-Semitism that we suffer is truly nothing in Europe compared to anti-Black racism, for example. Anti-Black racism in Europe costs lives. It costs lives on the Mediterranean Sea from Africans on the move who are trying to take dinghies and boats and are killed with no repentance from the European Union. It costs lives in the streets of Madrid and Rome with police brutality and racial profiling that is extremely severe. And it costs lives with economic deprivation that is systematic and institutional in its racism against Black Africans in particular. So even when we think about these things as a Jewish person, you're thinking about it like, okay, my people suffer, but my people suffered today. And back then, there were pogroms at my house and people were trying to hunt down my family members in places like Lithuania and Russia and Ukraine and Poland and Germany and France, for sure. But today, we have to be attentive to how racism as a institutional architecture has warped and changed and has accommodated new forms of demographic transformation and has moved on from its particular obsession with Jews to focus on primarily Black African, and also, Arab forms of discrimination that are multiple times much more terrifying, multiple times more lethal, multiple times more demanding of our attention and our solidarity than anything that is suffered by the Jewish community in Europe today, I think.
I think I have to say this, and it's not a question, it's just a comment that I have to make. I think your humanity, David, comes across so strongly. It speaks. I'm a mom, so I have to say, you know what? Your mother, we always claim that. Mothers claim these things. If she's listening, Mom, you did a great job. Dad, you did an excellent job. Honestly, thank you so much for your son. This is, it's just so heartwarming. But at the same time, one feels a sense, and I do feel your frustration. I think that comes across, and, it's just unfair, really. To put it as basic as that, it really is unfair. So let me get out of my mother mode and come back into this as a journalist. What's the symbol of, such a thing, the symbolic logic of a project like the flotilla? And how important is it?
Yeah, I think the task of the flotilla is to move out of the realm of symbolism and into the realm of the concrete and the material and the infrastructural. And I think that was what we were trying to do when we were at sea. So when we left Barcelona, we left as a group of activists, a group of humanitarians, a group of ordinary citizens who were trying to draw attention to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But it was never about ending there. Our mission was always to establish a permanent humanitarian corridor at sea, to break the siege and to have be able to reach the people of Gaza. I think it's important, returning to the argument we were having before about how to denormalize Israeli violence. There is no place in the world, I'm from California, if China just said to the people of Los Angeles, my hometown, you can no longer go to your beaches. If you go to your beaches and you swim in your ocean, we'll kill you. And your ports where you want to import goods, fruits, vegetables, shells, whatever it may be, we're going to control those ports. You're not allowed to have any access or control. Californians would be like, this is an unbelievable and unsustainable violation of our basic tenet of self-determination and sovereignty on our shores. But that's what Israel does with Gazans. They kill them, they snipe them as they play in the sea. And of course, they have no access to, they've destroyed all the ports. So there's no way to conduct commerce on the Gazan shores. It's a tragedy. So what we wanted to do was, even if we're setting out on these humble vessels, these little sailing ships and motor cruisers, find a way to create a permanent infrastructure to facilitate that humanitarian exchange and to allow Gazans even the smallest precondition, the smallest step forward towards their self-determination as enshrined in international law. And in that sense, I think it's important to emphasize that we weren't just satisfied to be a group of ordinary people and then activists. Of course, It helps us to say, we represent these communities because we're not fancy politicians and prime ministers, we're just ordinary people. But one of the achievements of the Global Sumud Flotilla, which I want to continue building on as we prepare for the next flotilla, is how to build a diplomatic coalition behind the flotilla. So we said, we're happy to be the tip of this spear to break the siege. We're happy to put our bodies on the line and sail our way towards Gaza. But it is the responsibility, and has been the legal responsibility, of the states themselves to send ships that can actually carry humanitarian aid at the scale that the genocide urgent and severe requires, to fill military or naval frigates with actual food and actual aid, like the trucks that are trying to reach through crossings like Rafah that are closed now. It's their responsibility to maintain the sea corridor that we were trying to establish and to send in those ships. This is what Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur, always repeats. There shouldn't be one Madeleine or one Handal or one family or one Awila. There should be fleets of ships that are carrying the necessary aid to reach the starving children, the long-suffering mothers, the working men and women that are living in Gaza and oftentimes fleeing from place to place without any access to, daily bread, let alone a supermarket where they can shop and decide what they want to eat as a family for that day. So I think even if we play a lot in the realm of symbols, in the realm of abstract solidarities, the goal of the flotilla is to bring those down to earth as concrete material and policy programs for how we can actually address a very real problem, which is that the hospitals in Gaza are destroyed, doctors don't have access to medicine, children are being born every single day, and mothers don't have access to baby formula. Families need to feed their children, and they don't have access to food and bread and water. And I think in the pyrotechnics of the geopolitical situation, as Trump was trying to bring to Egypt with all these leaders signing an agreement, we can lose sight of the just day-to-day, hour-by-hour needs of people in Gaza who are happy that there's a peace plan or happy that there's a temporary cessation of hostilities, as temporary as it may be, but they still wake up tomorrow hungry. Still they wake up without a home. They're still living in tents. We can't lose sight of the urgency of that humanitarian crisis, even if the journalist or the news cycle tries to move past it to talk about other things.
Indeed. You did segue into my next question, which was Donald Trump. But I'm being told to announce the WhatsApp number 0809-597-5805. You will be able to ask David questions 0201-277-0993 or 0201-465-7190. I'm glad you mentioned Donald Trump because that was, like I said, that was going to be my next question. What are your thoughts on what we've seen in the last 3-4 days? Donald Trump arriving in Sharm el-Sheikh and the whole signature and the 20-point plan. And Israel is already blocking the number of aid that goes in. What are your thoughts of that, especially given that you do pay Donald Trump's salary, David, being an American, right?
I do. Yeah.
You want to sack him?
Salary, and I also pay for the bombs and bullets that are still raining over the people of Gaza. So there's a certain additional sense of righteous rage that I direct towards this administration as towards the previous one. I think that we have to be clear-minded about this kind of agreement or the prospects for an enduring ceasefire. So, politically, I think it's critical that we oppose this peace plan because it abrogates every piece, every aspect, every shred, every principle that was once enshrined in the UN Charter and through the struggles of anti-colonialism around the world. I mean, what is the principal goal of decolonization as it was lived in continents like Latin America and Africa and Asia? It was self-determination. It was that the people from these places could decide their own future democratically, could recover the sovereignty over their natural resources from foreign corporations, for example, could live their lives in ways that were in harmony with their local customs or religious traditions, right? And this peace plan is a colonial arrangement. It's one where the United States or Tony Blair or whatever it may be acts as a protector of these territories and oversees their the sacking of their natural resources that strips them of their political rights to self-determination and that drives in foreign corporate interests to build out some Gaza Riviera real estate nightmare that Donald Trump and his family members are trying to lead. So first, there is the sort of peace plan and the contents of that peace plan, which I think are illegal under international law, and I keep referring to international law because it's all we have, and we have to keep insisting on it. But it's also consensual and brings the global South together around it. And then there's the question of the ceasefire itself, and I think our task is not to be hoodwinked by the state of Israel, as the Western press seems always willing to be, and to understand that the past is prologue to the behavior of the state of Israel with respect to these ceasefire agreements. It's a classic lemma that when there's a ceasefire, Palestine ceases and Israel fires, and that is going to continue to be the case in the future. Because to believe in this peace process is, I think, to fall for the biggest deceit that the state of Israel has tried to send out propagandistically into the international system. Since long before October 7th, self-defense was the excuse ethnic cleansing was the method, and annexation was the goal. And you don't have to be an investigative journalist to understand that the goal they have in the West Bank, what they call Judea and Samaria, the goal they have in Gaza is to annex land, is to execute a vision of greater Israel that does not include room for even one Palestinian. And so it takes a degree of credulity, I think, to really buy into Israel's account of a ceasefire agreement, so fallacious and so duplicitous in trying to blame Hamas for any excuse that they have to block aid or re-invade, any of these things that we seem to be seeing now germinating in the Israeli response to that temporary ceasefire. And so that's why we don't stop fighting. I mean, that's why each of us has come back from Ketziot more determined and more committed to the Palestinian cause, but more clear-minded about how rogue the state of Israel has become, and how little we should take them at their word when they say, okay, yeah, we're going to pull out of this place and we'll respect these rights and we'll release these prisoners and everything's going to be okay tomorrow. And you don't have to worry, the war is over, which is that language that they're using now. And the war is not over. The war has been going on for 75 years.
Yeah.
It's not over today. It won't be over tomorrow. And, the war is only over when Palestinians say it's over. So I think it's important to keep our ear to the ground and keep listening to what people in Gaza are saying, keep listening to their needs and their realities instead of reading the headlines and walking away thinking, oh, fantastic, I'm so glad the conflict has come to a peaceful conclusion.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's again, it's a good segue into my next question. Let's talk the Nobel. Donald Trump campaigning for the Nobel. We know he didn't get it. But then one of the, when one looks at all the nominations, Francesca Albanese, whom you mentioned earlier, she's also been on this show. She's one of them. And then it was given to Maria Machado, I think her name is. How disappointed? Yeah, Machado, thank you. How disappointed were you?
Well, I felt mixed about it. I think that Trump's pursuit of a Nobel Peace Prize is probably the only reason why I'm speaking to you now, because I think that in the end, the U.S. government didn't want to have 22 of its citizens rotting in an Israeli concentration camp. And so I think the only reason why we were even let out in the first place, we probably would still be there right now if Trump was not engaged in this vainglorious pursuit of a Nobel Peace Prize. To begin with. So I'm happy in a messed up way that, Trump was so addicted to this pursuit of peace prize. But no, I think it reflects a very Orwellian environment we live in, where peace is war and war is peace, that a president that has made war all over the world, where his buddies are profiting from the production of weapons to be, dropped and distributed to every autocrat across the world, it wants to be celebrated as a president of peace. The same in Venezuela, where Maria Corina Machado, who is begging for blood, who is begging for the U.S. to rain bombs on Caracas, is given a peace prize. This reflects the twisted language and the twisted ways in which our words have come to mean their opposite. And that's a classic thing. The state of Israel is a pioneer, is really a revolutionary in this. They called us terrorists on the flotilla when what they were conducting were acts of terror. They call Palestinians prisoners when they really are hostages. I mean, this way in which, not to overstate the sense in which language is important, but I think it does affect how we interpret the world and how we interpret these conflicts and how we make sense of the balance of power between different places. And when Trump speaks of peace, you can almost every time understand that what he really means is more war. And we can see that now, for example, even in the war between Ukraine and Russia, or between NATO and Russia after Putin's invasion in Ukraine. Trump said, tomorrow there will be peace in Ukraine. And now what is he doing? He's sending way more weapons to Ukraine, helping them to strike sites deep inside Russia. Every time the U.S. speaks of peace, it is just a way to either extend, prolong, or even initiate new forms of warfare around the world. And that inversion of language is so scary, it's so dangerous, because it's so convincing to so many people who simply read the headline, peace, and they think, oh, fantastic, the conflict has come to a conclusion. And they don't interrogate further to say, what does that peace consist in? How stable is it? And how enduring is it? And what are the conditions? And do they set the stage for even more violence down the line?
Indeed, the both siding that you mentioned. Right, you've started calling. Make it short, sharp, and succinct, please. We don't have time. And remember, David is my guest, not yours. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Brother Martin from Surulere.
Okay, go ahead, Pastor.
I want to ask your guest there, why is the Western world, led by America, regarding Hamas as if they were Al-Qaeda? Why are they equating Hamas and Al-Qaeda?
Why are they treating them like Al-Qaeda? Okay.
Not treating them.
Oh,
why are they
equating
why
them?
Are they equating them?
Right.
Yeah, equating
right.
them. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Right, David, write that down, and then I'll answer another one. 1 second. Oh, they've all started calling. Hello. Okay, where are you? Hello. Hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, Madoka from First. Madoka from First Act.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I just want to ask the guest whether he thinks that this window created by Trump presidency, if it is the best option, or how do I put it, the best
opportunity
Palestine can get in solving this problem.
Oh, I see.
But so far, the successive American government does this. Trump presidency presents the best window of opportunity. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. Oops. I don't know what happened there. Right, Dave, did you get that? I have no idea what's going on there.
I got both.
1 second.
Ready for you.
Hello.
Evening once again, Sisyogi.
Good evening, Emmanuel.
Yeah. My question this time is the mentality of the average Israeli is that if you support the Palestinian, you are a terrorist. Even you, Sisyogi, you were asked, who do you think you are? You will regret it. When Kesama said they want to recognize the Palestinian state, one of the Israeli spokespersons said, who does he think he is? Even this president of France.
Macron.
Yes, Macron. So, as the odds voted, can these people mentality be changed?
Okay.
Or do we give it to them the way they give it to us? That means you regard me as a human, I regard you as a human.
Okay.
You ask me, who do you think I am? I also ask you, who do you think you are? Am I permitted to ask another question?
Thank you. That's an interesting question. Emmanuel often has very interesting questions. Did you hear that? Did you get that?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, let me repeat that for you. So Emmanuel's question was, every time you don't support Israel, you're treated like a terrorist. That when Keir Starmer said he was going to recognize the state of Palestine, he was asked, who do you think you are? That even I've been asked on this show, and I was threatened saying, I will regret it. And I was told, who do you think you are? This was by an Israeli guest. Israeli diplomat, actually, I must say, and stuff. So he's saying, do you think that mentality will ever leave the average Israelis, or are we at a point where we made in Nigeria, they call it fire for fire? So if you speak to us like that, we will also speak to you in the same tone, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you 2 minutes because they're all calling to answer all those three questions.
Well, I think the third question and the first question, and actually the second one I think they're all kind of related to each other.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to trace a genealogy because to understand the connections between Israel and the United States and what was called a global war on terror. After 9/11, there was born a new paradigm around the concept of a terrorist. And the concept of a terrorist was someone who, by their very nature, if we really interrogate, what do U.S. Americans mean when we say terrorist? They mean someone who has no rights. So if I can succeed to label you a terrorist, that means I can strip you of your right to legal representation. I can kill you extrajudicially. It doesn't matter what you are.
Guantanamo.
And really, I think it's important to understand the context of this genocide in the global war on terror. That was where we constructed the black sites with the torture techniques that Israel uses now. That's where we built the Guantanamo Bay that inspired Israel's to build Ketziot prison where I was held. These are shared tactics. And the reason why they come back to this word terrorist, is because that points them back to the extrajudicial space that doesn't have to make any reference to global norms and institutions and values and fundamental human rights, but allows them to do whatever they want in the way the United States similarly did whatever it wanted with any Muslim that it was deemed to be somehow related to Al-Qaeda or implied in 9/11, or just a garden variety Muslim living in New Jersey disappeared to a torture camp, on the Cuban coast. This is why I think, to the last question, it is important that we fire back. It's important, as mentioned before, vocabulary is important. Our words are important. And the reason why is because the word terrorist is one of the most politically loaded concepts we have in the world today, because it can be basically weaponized to kill and maim, to detain and torture anyone if they can be smeared in that way.
Wow, we seem to be having an interference on one of the calls. I don't know what it is, but you can hear me well. Is that correct?
I can hear you great.
Okay, and I'm not sure if my listeners can hear me, but I'll answer another call. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. Yes.
Yeah, this is a merchant man.
Okay, go ahead, merchant man.
My question is. Now we have a post-war Gaza. I can't pick at anything that was the basis of the agreement in which the Palestinian people will form the basis of the sovereignty, which has been the real reason they have been fighting. Now this peace deal or truce has been actualized, and the people have been allowed to go back to their state, to their former place, Gaza. Now, how can they restart any issues of sovereignty again without being such terrorists?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question. So the question is how, now that the Palestinians, given all that's going on with the peace plan, how, and Pastor Gbadamosi, I think, asked the same question before, which was about Palestinian sovereignty. Is this an important moment, or is it the best time that the Palestinians are going to get to be able to put the topic of Palestinian sovereignty in the face of everybody? Again, the whole world, as opposed to pre-7-10. Let me just answer this call. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Namdi.
Go ahead. Ask your question, please, very quickly, short.
Okay. I'm calling regarding the Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay.
Please, I would like to know, what did Francisca Albanese do to warrant a nomination, regardless of winning the Nobel Peace Prize?
Okay,
because
thank you.
I can understand that
she didn't win it, but you want to know why she was nominated. Go on.
Even nominated, yes.
Okay.
Because I don't think she deserves to be nominated at all.
Why do you not think she deserves to be nominated?
She had no role to play in the ceasefire, no role at all. She was just a propagandist for Hamas. So she had nothing to do with this deal. She has just been wasting her time since the war began. So
okay.
I really don't know why she was nominated in the first place.
Okay, great. Your name is Namdi, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, David. Perhaps you want to take the last question.
Sure. Francesca Albanese has been a fearless advocate, not only for the Palestinian people, but for international law more generally. This goes back to a conversation that we've been having over the course of the entire hour. The fate of Gaza is the fate of all of humanity, because what is happening in the occupied territories today could be happening in Nigeria tomorrow. And, as a representative of the UN system that is now under so much attack for its legitimacy and its role and its future in helping to facilitate a fair, equitable, democratic form of global governance, as well as a representative of international law and the rules that are supposed to protect the most vulnerable, marginalized, and oppressed peoples across the world. For Francesca Albanese to stand up in the face of vicious U.S. sanctions, such a severe and widespread campaign of propaganda against her, and never to back down, not to move an inch, a centimeter, a millimeter in defense of international law and the fundamental rights of the people of Palestine, I think is really amazing. And the extent to which that propaganda campaign has been successful in convincing people that she's nothing more than a tool for Hamas is, for me, further evidence of her courage, further evidence of her worthiness of that nomination, further evidence, in my opinion, of her worthiness to win.
Okay, you have to go to the other question. They're telling me to hurry up.
The question is about Palestinian sovereignty.
Yeah.
I think that I come back to the point that it is not up to us. Certainly it's not up to me, but I would say as well to your audience, it's not for us to decide whether this is the best deal or best agreement or best conditions. It's not for us to decide what counts or what would be sufficient for the people of Palestine in terms of their definition of self-determination. We have to keep our ears to the ground. We have to open up lines of dialogue and communication. Israel doesn't want us to do this, but we need to be speaking directly to Palestinians in the West Bank and in Gaza about what they think, what they feel, what counts for them as progress in this peace process. As far as I understand, in terms of this colonial arrangement, we're not there yet, but it's going to be up to us to have that conversation, to listen closely to their needs, desires, preferences, and dreams for the future if we are to respect their dream of sovereignty.
David Adler, first and foremost, sorry, my regards to your parents. They've done an absolutely fantastic job. And that's not to take away your own agency from you. And to you, thank you so, so much for joining us, for your humanity and your honesty, irrespective of what it cost you. Thank you. Thank you for being you.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope it's not the last time. I really appreciate it.
Certainly not. I can assure you of that. I would adopt you if I could, but they won't let me. Trump won't let me.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Have a fabulous weekend.
Nigeria Info. We'll be right back.
Hey there, mums and dads. Did you know that some children are picky eaters and also do not get enough fruits and vegetables from their diet? Well Kid Baby and Infant Syrup is a food supplement from Vitabiotics that contains 14 vitamins and minerals, including vitamin C and zinc, as well as flaxseed oil, which supports brain development and all-round health. Well Kid Baby and Infant Tasty Syrup is for children 3 months to 5 years of age. Give your young ones a good start with Well Kid Baby and Infant from Vitabiotics UK. Available in pharmacies near you.
All right, class, settle down. Today, let's talk about how you started your day.
We got dressed and had pancakes with John Vance 3-in-1 chocolate for breakfast.
My mom makes John Vance 3-in-1 chocolate for us too.
My mom calls it instant goodness. My sister and I always put it inside our pap. It's so yummy.
John Vance 3-in-1 chocolate. Is a chocolate.
Tomato mix, stand up. Easy to open, easy to squeeze, easy to scoop, and easy to stir.
Sonia tomato mix in a new stand-up pouch.
Guess what, Nigeria? The Kellogg Superstar Quiz Show is back with season 4. Get ready to watch young superstars from schools across Nigeria battle it out in the ultimate contest of knowledge, speed, and fun. Catch all the excitement from 12th October on Z World, DSTV channel 166, and GoTV channel 30 every Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. sharp. It's going to be a thrilling journey of learning, laughter, and superstar moments, and you don't want to miss it.
Superstar Quiz Show. The energy from breakfast doesn't last my child the whole day. By halftime, your champ will be low on energy. That's why break time is the right time to refuel with the nourishing Milo drink.
Keep your champ in the game with a Milo drink in their lunchbox. It's made from the goodness of malt, milk, cocoa, and contains iron and calcium. Milo drink has a great taste your champs will love and a nourishing energy to help them make the most of every day. Milo, energy to go further.
Milo! Mom, are you going shopping?
Yes, darling.
Can you get me a Capri Sun beach ball, please, Mommy?
For sure. Wait, where do I get a Capri Sun beach ball?
There's a free beach ball inside every carton of Capri Sun, Mom.
That's right. The Capri Sun Beach Ball promo is here. There's a free beach ball inside every carton of Capri Sun. Terms and conditions apply.
Capri Sun, the taste of fun.
It's the Indomie Eat and Win promo. The more you eat, the more you win. How to win? Buy the Indomie Eat and Win promo pack. Find the promo code inside. Visit indomie.ng/eat and win. Enter your promo code and start earning points fast. For a chance to win exciting gifts and 1 million naira cash every week for a lucky winner. So hurry now, eat and win. Let the winning begin. Visit indomie.ng/eat and win for more details, terms and conditions apply.
See, everybody with him own wahala.
Every day comes with its own version of challenges, and you have to be ready to face them, because only then can you move on to the next. That's why I never miss my breakfast. Scratch that! My peak breakfast, with the nutrients and energy I need to face each day, one challenge at a time.
Every day is a good day to power on with a peak breakfast. Have you had your peak? Reach for your peak.
My mama no lie, oh. Food way sweet, now money kill and plus everything combined, oh. Everything combined, oh. Ogbonge just the arrive, oh. She tell me say na Devon King, so yeah, oh, she dey use fry, oh. Yeah. Now why did you love it this sweet like this? Chicken in the crisp like this. Fry the plantain, the chips and fish. Everything sweet and please. It's very, very soya, my cheese. Now we dey run it down like green. We dey cook it, we dey fry with cheese. Devon King oil is very, very
Introducing the new Devon King's Soya Vegetable Oil from Devon King's, our trusted family brand. Available in stores nationwide.
Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info.
You're tuned in to 99.3 Nigeria Info, where the news hits first and every conversation matters.
I believe in Lagos, you already know that every heavy rain feels like another flood warning.
And of most importantly, a court has ordered the